What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about my top 15 favourite horror movies of all time. I suppose these movies are all pretty much interchangeable with each other. This list will change over the months, over the years, as it always will do. Your list is going to be completely different to mine, but these are my picks of 15 horror films that I just love, and they're my favourites ever. Let's get into my first pick. Number 15 is Terrifier 2. I have openly admitted on this channel that I do not like the original Terrifier. The first Terrifier is more kind of a proof of concept of what can be done on a small budget when it concerns really viscerally realistic looking practical effects. So I've always felt it was a bit lacking in the story department, and I love, you know, when I go into horror film, you've got great characters and you've got a great story to actually follow and invest in. And that's where Terrifier 2 comes in. I think this film does an amazing job to establish the kind of myth and kind of world building of the Terrifier universe, and obviously Art the Clown, and kind of explore his, you know, what he is and who he is and how he can go around just doing these horrific things and not be caught or murdered for it. But yeah, this is a great 2.5 hour slasher film. I think it's like the longest slasher film ever made, if I'm correct. But this was a breath of fresh air, a wonderful surprise compared to the first one. This has got great characters that you really root for, that you want to overcome this evil in this movie. But you also kind of love Art the Clown at the same time, because he's absolutely fantastic in this movie. The practical effects are absolutely just gnarly and nasty and visceral, and everything you've heard about this movie is 100% bang on. This is a very, very brutal, gory, violent movie. You know, body parts go everywhere, blood goes everywhere, mutilation galore. If you're a gore hound, you're going to love this movie for what it does in the gore department. But I feel like in a story perspective, this still is fantastic. This is still a fantastic story being told here, and I feel like it really kind of, you know, expands on the story of Art the Clown and the kind of lore behind his character. What a great sequel this was. Probably one of the best horror sequels ever, in my opinion. It's a big order, but when it come off the first one, I'm not liking the first one. This does everything I wanted the first one to be, and it is fantastic. That's Terrifier 2. Coming in at number 14 is Scream. I've always seen Scream as a culmination of the slasher genre. The slasher genre exploded out of the gate with Halloween and became even more popular with Friday the 13th, you know, Nightmare on Elm Street and the like. It became a massive money-making venture for studios who wanted to make horror films in the 80s. It was the bread and butter for 80s horror back then. And I always feel that Wes Craven's Scream is almost pretty much everything we got from the 80s culminated in a single movie. It is almost it's almost like a lesson in the genre. It is fantastic. It obviously pokes fun at the genre as well, but which is always fun. But this is probably the greatest slasher film that's not Halloween, in my opinion. This is a close second for me for being the greatest slasher film of all time. But like I said, it's a culmination of everything that we've learned from the slasher genre in one movie. I love it. Sidney Prescott might be one of the greatest, most legendary final girls in all of cinema. Not one of my favourites, but she probably is up there with, you know, in the top 3 easy for me. Great character, great final girl, and the story in this is just so great. The villain, or villains should I say, are so memorable. Billy and Stu are just fantastic. Stu in particular hams it up and eats every fucking scene he's in. I love Matthew Lillard as well, he's great in this. But yeah, Scream is a bona fide slasher film, one of my favourite horror films of all time. And it's only really kind of made its way into my favourites recently. I saw it a couple of years ago in the cinema for the first time, and it gave me a brand new appreciation for this movie, how much it's just held up and is still great to watch now. It is a bona fide slasher film, one of the best slashers in the world, and I love it. That's Scream. Number 13 is a French extremity movie called Inside. I remember being recommended this movie. I remember people saying it's just a really nasty home invasion film. but I wasn't expecting the level of intensity and brutality that I was in for when putting this on back in like 2012 when I first saw it. This is an absolute just blistering movie of absolute carnage. This concerns a young woman who is pregnant. Unfortunately, their husband has been killed in a car accident a few months earlier, and now she's all alone in her house. And when someone comes calling, asking to be let in, but eventually breaks her way into their house, it really becomes a really horrific nightmare scenario for this young lady and obviously her unborn child. I don't want to go any further with this than that, but I would just say this film is absolutely my favourite home invasion film of all time, and I think it's probably my favourite foreign language horror film ever. I do highly recommend this one. It is so good. The brutality of it is nasty. The sinister kind of motive of the villain is just horrific. If you think about it too long, it's actually quite horrible. And apparently, if you look into what she breaks into the house to do, that actually is rooted in some kind of reality. There is a report out there that has shared that someone has done this kind of thing for real, which is even more horrific. But yeah, Inside is an absolute bona fide fucking awesome home invasion film that I adore. I rewatched it fairly recently as well, and I still love it. I think it's fantastic. It doesn't let up. It's like a 90 minutes of just pure carnage chaos, and by the end of it you are literally sweating and you just want to, like, you know, curl up into a ball and cry yourself to sleep. That's Inside. Hope you're enjoying the episode so far, guys. I'm really happy to announce that this episode is proudly sponsored by me over at Command and Console, my video game second channel over there. If you like, you know, retro video games like PS2 and the original Xbox and Xbox 360 and older consoles like that, please come and join me over there, where we're currently building a 360 collection and a PlayStation 2 collection from scratch. I'm about 5 episodes into my PS2 Project PS2 episode, so yeah, be sure to come over there, drop me a sub and join the journey on Command and Console. Anyway, let's get back to the video. Coming in at number 12 is Candyman. This film is an absolute classic from the 90s, and 1992 gave us one of the best in that decade, and that is Candyman. This is one of those movies that still really does get under my skin to this day. I can rewatch this and really kind of feel just uncomfortable and unnerving and just feel gross. And yeah, this film does all of that and then some. Tony Todd in this is an absolute legendary performance as Candyman. He is just unnerving, and the way he just says things is just scary as hell. I would not want to say his name 5 times in the mirror, and I would not want to hear his voice calling out to me to be his victim. No please, no thank you, don't want that, cheers. But yeah, Candyman is an absolute bona fide classic from the 90s, and it still is one of my favourite horror films ever. Hell yes, that's Candyman. Number 11 is going to be Night of the Creeps. I was introduced to this movie through the documentary series In Search of Darkness. It had a little segment with Tom Atkins, and he actually comes out and said this is literally his favourite film he's ever been a part of. So that really intrigued me to pick it up. So I found this nice Eureka edition. I thought, you know what, I'm going to check this out. Where have I been for this movie? This movie is absolutely fantastic. It came out in 1986. It is absolutely fantastic. It's a really interesting kind of different spin on the zombie kind of mythos, but it's really, really fun. The gore effects are great. Tom Atkins is on absolute top form in this movie. He's such a cool cat in this film. Yeah, I can't really go any more than that, really. This film is just so good. Just go and watch it, guys. This is one of my favourite 80s movies. It is fantastic. What a great, unique way of doing zombies in the 80s. And this is one of the best, in my opinion. This is fantastic. One of my favourite horror films of all time. And just, yeah, got a cool artwork there. Fucking cool. But yeah, that's Night of the Creeps. What a film. We're in the top 10 now, guys. Coming in at number 10 is going to be the original 1978 Halloween. Like I said about Scream, Scream could be the best slasher film of all time if it wasn't for Halloween. Halloween is the greatest slasher film ever made, in my opinion. I adore this film. It is infinitely rewatchable. The tone is on point. It makes you feel like you're actually, you know, it's Halloween season as well. It's such a great movie all around, with its tone, its vibe, And the horror in this is subtle but effective. Like you're all, you got look over your shoulder. Are you being stalked? Where is Michael? Is he going to be in the frame? Is he not? This film is a bona fide classic. It made slashers explode into the 80s and made it, the biggest thing for horror in the 80s. But I don't think it would really be so big if it wasn't for John Carpenter's Halloween. Everything about this film is perfect. The soundtrack, the vibe, the feel, the main villain, the antagonist, the murderer, Michael Myers, is such an interesting character because, he has no motive there. It's just, is he pure evil? Is there a spiritual element there we don't know about? We just never know. But all we know is that he's damn scary, and there are some horrific moments in this without really showing much blood, which is really interesting. There's a scene where someone gets stabbed and he's like stuck to the wall, and then Michael does his head tilt as if like he's curious about death, like death. He's curious about people dying, and that's what motivates him to kill. He's so curious about it. That's my take anyway on that. But yeah, Halloween is a bona fide classic, one of John Carpenter's best, and yeah, it's forever on my Halloween playlist when it gets to the autumn season and we have to put on some scary films. That's Halloween. Number 9, we have a really unique and underrated 80s horror film that I fucking love and no one talks about it. I'm talking about a film called Dead and Buried. This is one of the most unique horror films that I just have seen in a very, very long time, and I don't think we've seen any of the others like since. This is an amazing kind of seedy town-esque horror that has this weird mystery going on that people are disappearing and being murdered, and then you've got this lonely dude trying to figure out what is going on. Yeah, this film is absolutely fantastic. I don't really want to go into any more detail than that because I feel like this film needs to unravel for you if you've not seen it in all its glory without being spoiled. But this is one of the most unique and most interesting horror films to come out in the 80s for me. I absolutely love this. It's fantastic. It's so interesting, so different, so unique, and yeah, it's just harrowing in its tone as well. This is fantastic. This Blue Underground 4K is immensely good, like crazy good picture on this as well. But yeah, that's Dead and Buried. I love this film. I think it's fantastic. Not enough people talk about it. It's one of the best from the 80s for me. But yeah, it's one of my favourite horror films of all time. That's Dead and Buried. Coming in at number 8 is a film I don't actually own because I haven't picked it up on Blu-ray yet, but I'm talking about Host. Out of every film out of this list, for me, this is the scariest film I've ever seen. Host centers around a group of women on a Zoom chat that want to do a seance, and they have a little mess around and make up stories about people that died, and in doing so they allow an evil spirit to enter their reality, and from then on there you are in this Zoom chat with these women as they deal with this evil entity that are haunting all 6 of them. But yeah, this film has immense atmosphere to the point where I generally were basically giving these characters directions on screen, going,
please don't do this, don't go there, stop looking away, no, you're not going to come back, you won't be right back, what are you doing, no, don't.
But the great thing about Host is that there are subtleties where if you're not looking behind the background of these obviously camera feeds, if you're not looking in a certain way, you're going to miss things. There's things I've missed in the film. I had to go back and watch certain scenes again and see things that I've missed, like characters disappearing that were in the shot before, and they disappeared. Where did they go? Oh wait, I missed them actually being like strangled by an invisible entity like 2 scenes ago. This film generally got under my skin like no other horror film has before. It was unbelievably tense, unbelievably scary, and there was moments where I generally were like, I actually hate watching this because I'm so fucking invested and so terrified. But yeah, Host is a 60-minute movie that it didn't need any longer than that. It is absolutely perfect for what it is. In that 1 hour, you are probably getting, in my opinion, from my experience, one of the scariest films ever. I just thought it was just superb from frame 1 to the credits. The way it told its story was excellent. The acting across all 5 or 6 characters in this film, great. There is moments in this film where you'd be like, oh fuck, What? Leave. No, don't. Oh, like, you're literally like, you're panicking with these characters. This film was fantastic. I do need to get the second sight release because I really want to own this on Blu-ray because I loved it. But yeah, Host is literally, out of the whole list, probably the scariest film, in my opinion, that I've ever seen. But yeah, that's Host. Number 7 is going to be Saw 2. The first sequel in this franchise is my favourite and I loved it. This is so rewatchable to me. I love this movie. To be fair, every movie that is from 7 upwards are super infinitely rewatchable to the point where they'll always be high up on my list. I can hear people rolling their eyes. I know this franchise has its fans, but it also has a lot of detractors. People that don't like this series for one reason or another. But Saw 2 for me is so much fun. It basically took what the first one establishes and just turns it up to 12. It is absolutely just fantastic. The Detective Matthews side of the story is probably my favourite part of the actual film, but the actual, like, you know, Poison House, where the traps are and where all these characters are led to die, that bit's still fun as well. You get more John Kramer in this, and he is as unhinged and creepy as ever. He's just fantastic in this, and his delivery is just so creepy and so on edge and so, you know, just it's so good. Like, this film should have never been this good. I think it's better than the first movie. That is quite a harsh statement to some, but this, to me, it just does everything the first did, you know, greatly, and does it even better. It's just fantastic. I love the characters in this. I love why they're there. I love the actual the twist is the best twist in the franchise, in my opinion. And yeah, seeing more John Kramer in this is a major plus. I'm looking forward to seeing Saw X. I've not seen it yet, but I'm looking forward to checking that one out, because more John Kramer is a win, I think, and Saw X is going to have more of that, so that's great. But Saw 2, at this moment in time, is still my favourite in the franchise, and is one of my favourite horror films ever. These next 6 movies are literally 10 out of 10 films for me. There's nothing wrong with them. I adore them to the nth degree, and we're going to kick it off with number 6, and that is going to be The Exorcist. I cannot get over how compelling and how intricately and perfectly, you know, created this film is. This film is unflinchingly perfect to me. It has amazing performances for everybody involved. It is shocking for its time. Head turning, you know, pea soup, vomit, all that kind of stuff. Today, it doesn't seem to be that shocking, but for 1973, it was like unheard of in a film. But I just feel like this film, as a story, is unbelievably compelling. Yeah, I love this story of this young girl who gets possessed by this demonic force, and they have to call in an exorcist to do battle with it and remove this demon from her. And the subtleties in this movie are unbelievably compelling, unbelievably just interesting, where if you look deep into this movie, you know it's not about the little girl being possessed. It is about just other forces involved. You know, Father Merrin, he's got a kind of like a sort of, you know, hinted at backstory with fighting demons and being, you know, an exorcist and actually like facing demons before. And his whole story and his kind of character is looked at there. Father Karras has a massive storyline in this movie, and it's very much about him losing his faith and really has to kind of get his faith in God back and actually fight this demon. There's so many layers to this movie that it is not just about a young girl being possessed. There's loads more of this movie. It is one of the best horror films ever made. I watched it recently in 4K. The 4K is incredible. And yeah, this film is still stands tall as one of the best ever. I love it to pieces. That's The Exorcist. Brings me to my number 5. I've spoken about this movie ad nauseum to this point. I know it's a very divisive movie and not a lot of people like it, but I just love this film. I can't express how much I love it. I'm just going to talk about it some more though. That is Malignant from 2021. This film has everything that I love about horror movies in it. It's got a great cast of characters, a great villain, a great story, and a absolutely batshit insane what the fuck kind of twist in there. It's great. I adore this film. The villain, Gabriel, should be up there with the icons of horror. He should be an iconic character in my eyes, because he's got a fucking amazing look, and he's got a unique weapon to kill with. And his motive is really, really interesting as well. Yeah, I do feel Gabriel should be up there with the icons, you know, Ghostface, Leatherface, Freddy Krueger, Michael Myers, Jason Voorhees. He should be stand alongside those characters as some of the greatest horror characters ever. Which I think Gabriel is. I think Gabriel is so uniquely cool that he needs to be up there. He may not be the best horror villain, but he's fucking, for me, he's the coolest horror villain ever, in my opinion. This film is fantastic. From the set designs to the camera work to the dialogue, and the dialogue is purposefully just a bit hokey and a bit weird, because it's a love letter to horror. It's a love letter to the 80s, the 90s, to even going back to the 70s with the Giallo stuff from Italy. It is a massive love letter to horror, and I fucking love this movie. I remember watching this for the first time and the credits rolled, and I audibly just said out loud to myself, that was awesome. I had a massive grin on my face for the whole movie. The police precinct sequence halfway through the film is the most batshit insane action sequence that I've seen in a horror film in years. This is one of the best horror films I've seen in a very, very long time. It's become an instant favourite for me, and it is number 5 on my list. That is Malignant. Just missing out on the bronze medal is my favourite film from this franchise, hands down. That is Child's Play 2. Child's Play 2 for me establishes Chucky exactly how we know him now. Has this wisecracking, just savage, brutal character that has no filter, does not care about you or your problems, and just wants to fuck shit up. This film is absolutely fantastic. The final act in the toy factory is one of my favourite final act conclusions to a horror film ever. It is one of the best final acts in my opinion. It's so well done, it's so well established, and yeah, it's just, this film is just the best. Child's Play 2 is the best in the franchise for me. I think this is where we really get Chucky as we know him today. Yeah, Child's Play 2 I think it's better than the original Child's Play, and it's just fantastic. It's so rewatchable as well, and I think more people need to give Child's Play 2 another shot if you're still a bit, you know, unsure about the sequels when it concerns the original Child's Play. Child's Play 2 is my number 4 pick. We're down to the podium picks, the top 3 guys. My bronze medal for this is the original Alien. This film is pretty much a haunted house in space with slasher elements. It is so well crafted. A slow burn, yes, but wow, does it have atmosphere in the bucket load. This has established one of the scariest monsters in cinema history. And yeah, I would not want to be face to face with the Xenomorph at any point in my life. But yeah, I do feel this is still, just hands down, an amazing horror film. It's not my favourite film in the franchise, but as a horror film, it is just perfect. An absolute perfect movie. The retro futuristic set design is impeccably designed. I love it. It looks awesome. And obviously the H.I. Giger designs for the derelict spaceship, and of course the Xenomorph itself is just iconic at this point. I adore this film. It is infinitely rewatchable, and there are some just iconic sequences that I fucking love in this movie. But that is Alien. That brings me to my top 2 picks for favourite horrors of all time. This is a tough spot. These are 2 films that I can watch over and over again and never get bored of them. These are 2 films that I can just defend until I die, because to me they're perfect horror films. They are 10 out of 10, perfect. My number 2 is going to be Evil Dead, the 2013 Evil Dead. Now I can hear all the boos and all the cry out for fake horror fan right now, but I've been a fan of this film since day one. This film is everything I wanted from a Evil Dead remake. Dark, dank, just blood everywhere, practical effects, just everything you would want from a serious horror film based on Evil Dead. It's not a straight up remake, there's no Ash in this movie, but I think what we get in its place is still just iconic. I think Mia as a character, to me, is as iconic in that role. in that kind of, you know, final girl role, final character role. She's fantastic in this. And because she plays, the actress plays two separate characters. She plays Mia and then she plays demonic Mia. It's just great. It's so well done. The gore in this is absolutely just unrelenting. This might be the most violent film I've ever seen. You know, I haven't seen every horror film, but this might just be the most blood-soaked film ever. Yeah, this film does not pull away any of its punches. It does not cut away to any kills. You see everything in just nasty, savage, you know, HD glory, basically. The kids in this, the group of characters in this, get absolutely savaged, absolutely slaughtered, and it's just hilarious and just fucking fun as hell to watch them be just absolutely just put to the test. And yeah, I would not want to be any of these kids in this film. They get absolutely brutalized, like I said. But this film is absolutely fantastic. I adore it. It is so rewatchable. And yeah, it's my favourite in the franchise as well. Boo all you like, but that's just my opinion, guys. But that is my number 2 pick. That is Evil Dead from 2013. That brings us to my final pick of the day. Now, my number 1 for quite a few years used to be The Exorcist. But since rewatching it, it made me realise that it's not really a film I would rewatch very often. And it kind of knocked it down a peg on this list, as you saw. It brings us to my number 1, a film that I can watch at any time of the year. I don't have to be in the mood. I'm always in the mood for this film. This film is a fucking bona fide masterpiece. I'm talking about the 1982 bona fide classic, John Carpenter's The Thing. Everything this film does, it excels at. Soundtrack, check. Tone, check. Suspense, check. Atmosphere, double check. The gore, quadruple check. Everything is done at like as high a level as you can imagine with this film. I adore this movie. This movie is everything I would want for a sci-fi monster film, and then some. The best parts of this film is those quieter moments where you can feel the tension building and the kind of like suspicion kind of, you know, rearing its ugly head amongst these characters. It is so good. The blood test sequence is one of the greatest suspenseful horror scenes ever made, and that jump scare where he puts the hot needle in that blood and it comes alive will always stick in my mind forever. This film is I keep saying it, it's a bona fide classic, it's a masterpiece. It is perfect. It's a perfect horror film. It excels in every aspect for me, and I don't think it'll ever be topped. And this film was obviously still a flagpole, a reason to showcase why practical effects will always be superior to digital ones. Of course, there'd be like lower budget films that have, you know, bad practical effects. Of course, you know, there is a such thing as bad practical effects. But when this film does it at this high caliber and it still looks fucking amazing in 2023, you know you have something timeless here. And I think The Thing is timeless. It is one of the best. It's the film that I think of when I think sci-fi horror. It's the film that I think of when I think of Kurt Russell. Yeah, it is just a bona fide classic. And it probably is my favourite John Carpenter film. The Thing is my favourite horror film of all time. Thing is incredible. And I think if you've not got around to seeing this movie, man, I wish I was there with you watching this for the first time again, because this movie is incredible. So that is it, guys. That is my top 15 favourite horror films of all time. Let me know what your picks are in the comments down below, and let me know any and all your thoughts on these movies in the comments down below. I'll see you next time, I suppose. Don't get scared now. Bye.